Welcome to the Creative Triangle, relationship between actors, directors, cinematographers in the digital world. I'll introduce the panelists, beginning with me. From your left to your right, I'm David Stump. To my left is Philippe Ross, AFC. Where did Aleksey? Yes, he showed up. Okay, good. Next is Cristina Grosan, director. Márk Győri, HCA, cinematographer. Dhanushka Gunathilake from the SLSC, cinematographer, head of Discovery Campus. He's originally from Sri Lanka. And last on the right is Aleksey Berkovic. I think we will start by turning the presentation over to Philippe to show, to present a little bit of a Creative Triangle PowerPoint.
There's no PowerPoint.
No?
No. Okay, so what we're going to talk about is not only the relationship between actors, directors, and cinematographers, but also with technicians, because when we're speaking about this relationship, it's also with dolly grip, first ACs, boom operator, editor, of course, at the end. So it's a large relationship. And it comes from the fact that when I started this work, I was in charge of lighting actors on stage for play. And I learned a lot from that. And at a certain moment of my career, I've been asked to be a director. And I knew, first of all, that I don't want to be a director because it's too much time to find money, and I prefer to be on stage, and so I prefer to be with a team because when you're director, unfortunately, you're making you have a lot of time to find the money. So I was not really interested also by one reason. I thought that I was not really knowing very well actors. And after a while, I started a very famous TV series in France, and I've been asked to teach actors how to deal with the camera. And I realized with all my travels that there was different conception of this relationship. In certain countries, it's very, let's say, current that you find actors asking for the type of lens on the camera, or exactly wanting to specifically know where they have to give the A-line. In certain countries, my country, for example, in France, people are not aware really about camera. So for them, it's not so important, and they learn on stage. And certain cinematographers also don't know very well the actor's work, what does it mean, let's say, the way to behave as an actor in front of a camera. So it's important to speak about this because I think there is different cultural approach on that topic. So I think basically I can stop and give the...
Cristina, would you like to say something on the Creative Triangle?
Well, there's plenty of things to say, of course. So I'm a Romanian-Hungarian director. I've worked with Márk on a feature in Hungary, on a feature in Czech Republic, and we did a series in the Czech Republic. So it was very interesting to see how much in common actors have with each other, depending on, no matter what country they come from, but at the same time, how much experience changes their approach to the camera. For example, an actress who has routine in shooting a lot was very interested in what kind of lighting Márk would use, what kind of lens he would use. Other actors, I feel, are much more prefer to give us the control and be in the moment. I personally feel a little bit possessive of the monitor in the sense that I'm not the happiest if an actor comes and wants to watch themselves on screen. Of course, if we want to see some rhythm, or we want to see a reaction, or we want to discuss something, absolutely. But especially in the beginning of the collaboration, if we don't know each other, I try very much to prevent the actor from creating a habit of watching themselves on the monitor. I would like to prepare enough with the actor so that we trust each other, and they are generous enough to give me the control. But at the same time, I remember a particular young actress on a period piece, and I would go back to Márk with this, where I was not close to them, and it was a following shot. It's a Daughter of the Nation, episode 6, a long following shot. I was not with them, so they had to collaborate. They had to coordinate rhythm much more. I could not help them with that. I was far. We couldn't afford time to wait, so I had to hope they do it well and see what happens without me. Do you remember this?
Yes, if you could say something about it, Márk.
So what I want to tell, actually it's the relation and collaboration. The relation, that's a nice one.
Sorry. By the way, we tried to reach out to some local actors and actresses here, but we were not able to arrange for someone to be here with us. So we're very sorry. We had a previous version of this panel in Oslo, Norway, and we had one of the leading actresses from Sweden, Scandinavia, and it was a very feisty conversation. It was quite good. Anyway, go ahead, Márk.
So just back for the topic. Yeah, I think that's a hard thing, the relation in the film shooting inside. For me, it was always a hard process to develop connection between the crew. It was easier to make a good relation with the crew, but the head of department, actually, it's always much more complicated. So that's why I'm telling, like, this is like a marriage sometimes, you know. It's, you're working together with people a short time, like 3 months, but it's like a long marriage. So there is some, always have some breaking point, you know, there is some agreeing with people, you know, it's quite hard. And actually it's the most important if you're collaborating and making some art product, to learn acting with the other actors and with the people, to let them working and doing them best as they can. And Cristina, it's one of my best, actually, filmmate. Because actually, at the beginning, I remember how we met. It was a really slow process how we come close together.
Yes, you threatened me that you will quit weeks before the, the shoot.
But later I recognized what's really nice in Cristina to work with. I was able to, maybe I learned with her. The DP sometimes needs to recognize the ideas of the director and needs to accept, because as we grow up, as we came out from the film school, you know, DPs always think we knows how what is the film and how it needs to be shot and things, and it's we are not trained to open and hear ideas which is greater than or. But sometimes, you know, if it's if you're working in a very nice project, and maybe if you're working more outside of the country, you're a little bit afraid, and you listening more to the other people, and it's help to develop your collaboration skill, I guess.
Dhanushka, if you would say something.
Okay, hi, thanks. Before I start, I would like to know, are there any actors in the audience by any chance? Great, wonderful. So maybe, like, you know, later you can also, like, you know, talk about certain points.
We may put you on the spot.
Yes. See, I might divert this into a different section. I'm going to drop a bomb here. Like coming from a film school, as a cinematographer, when we are learning, like, in the film schools, and I see this also commonly with many students, mainly in film school, we try to, as cinematographers, it's been taught that we try to understand the character very well. When you read the script, you do a lot of homework, the discussions with the director, discussion with the other departments, with the writers. We always try to understand the character very well. But are we ever taught how to understand the actor in that way? Because most of the time also it's kind of a misconception that I had when I passed out from film school like a decade ago, that I knew, like, yes, I knew the character, what's going to happen and everything, and then the universe that I'm trying to build around in the set, like, a visual universe with the character. But I never understood the perspective of the actor in that way. So really, like, missed the person who's behind, like, this character. So what happened was, it's like, again, like, it's kind of like, as Márk like also mentioned, like, we think like, yes, we know everything and we're going to do all these things. And something that we miss in the set and also in this process of filmmaking is the creative empathy. That how do we understand the role of other person who's not in our, like, rather I would say the technical group. So do we really understand what is this actor can see? Like example, like, yes, we do the lighting, we put all the equipments, everything is around, and then you expect this human being, the actor, to ignore everything what they can see around. There's no lights, there's no tracks, there's no cameras, and there are no 200 people just like, around. Of course, actors are trained to do that, but also in a way, like, as somebody who's leading the ship, like, in the set, as a cinematographer, how much do we think from the actor's point of view, and how much that we trying to help the actors to make the process easier and, like, combine with us. So in that case, like, when I see this process, especially with the students, when they are working, we all think about the image that we're going to see on the screen, and then we work towards that. So that's the universe that we are trying to create in the film. But something that we miss is the universe in the production. Like, how do we create the universe in the production? Because cinematographer has a great responsibility in this. So that's not only in the set, like, how you create that universe. That's also like when you're working with your crew, that when you're selecting your equipments, when you're doing your Reiki and when you're selecting your equipments, then there also that I think we need to consider, like, about the actor and, like, how the process, how are you going to shoot. Now, coming into that, again, like working with the actors for the cinematographers, it's completely depending on the style of the director. So there are some directors who would be, like, very precise, and they want, like, yes, actor to be here, and then, like, compositions are well planned, and then they want to follow certain process. That's the style of the director for that film. But then there are some directors who would give, like, a lot of emphasis on the spontaneity and let, like, like, read the room and the breathing in the room, and then how do we capture that? So in those cases, like with one example, like, I would like close it from here. When I was shooting, I shot a film with a Swedish director. He's a great dramatist coming from theater. So he was making a film. His style was a very Brechtian style. So he wanted to not to have any equipments to be seen in the set and let the actors play. So I had to, like, light the set. Everything is away. Camera is away, and then they are doing the scene. So then I was also with the other cameras with like a long lenses, trying to capture every moment which is going on in the film. So after few scenes, there was a very senior actor. So he came to me and he said hey, can I have a talk? Then we were just having a chat. So he told me, you're taking my close-up and I don't have a feeling that there is nothing in front of me because my audience is going to see me in this proximity, like this close. That's where the close-up, very close. So he said, can I have something standing? It's either some object in the set so that I could feel there is somebody close to my face. So until that moment, I never realized how these actors can feel, the chemistry where that they could feel somebody close to you, your face, so that they know that audience is going to see in that close proximity. So that had led, when you were discussing also with Philippe, right, when, do we really understand this person behind the character, the actor? So this is something that I think it's very important to understand the actor's point of view. And in the same time, it's vice versa. Yes, does the actor need to understand about this technicality of the cinematography? I guess yes, but then again, again, how you work with the style, with the director, and how you perceive that. But however, something important is again creating this environment, because cinematographer has a lot of power in the set. So you've been treated if you go into the Asian side, especially in South Asia, where I'm coming from, cinematographer is being worshipped in the set like a god, because not because you're a god, it's because you are just holding the most expensive equipment in the set. So, and then you have the control over all the lights and this, and you're the one who's talking in the set. So then it's your responsibility also in a way to create that atmosphere and create this think about the creative and the empathy at the set. Thank you.
Aleksey, I'll come back to you in a second, but we have a special guest star this afternoon who I don't know. So speaking of spontaneous and improvised, mystery guest number one, will you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Nicholas Hackenberg. I'm an actor living here in Budapest, been living here for 25 years. I was born in France and I have some Hungarian roots, so that's how I ended up here in Budapest.
Thank you for coming to join us. We looked for an actor and we couldn't find one, and now by surprise we have one.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So now with that in mind, would you...
Those actors want to come to join? Please.
Look at that.
We're missing lady.
Ask and ye shall receive.
We just work together.
Come on up. Might get a job out of this.
Come on, Rebecca.
We'll make room. So if you could talk about the relationship between cinematographers and directors and actors a little bit, we welcome it. That's what this is a conversation about that.
Well, to be fair, I have a bit of an advantage because I studied photography in Paris. So I do understand the usage of the lens and the lighting part. So that helps me a lot actually when I am on set. To understand what the work will be, and I do tend to have a relationship with the cinematographer and with the director. I understand also that you mentioned that you don't like to have actors who want to see the screen. But to be honest, when I started to work on some indie projects, sometime with beginner filmmakers, you don't always have the luxury to see of the work they've done. So to establish the trust relationship at the beginning, you want to know, okay, I want to see how they are framing or how they are working. That kind of, I'm investing my time in this project, so I want to make sure that I'm also make the right choice to be in this project. And it happened to me, I was in Prague last year shooting a short film. And I asked actually to have the chance to look at the screen. And I didn't want to have this look at the screen the whole time. But the beginning of it, at the start of the project, when I saw the framing and everything was done professionally, I cannot let go. And after I didn't need to go back to the screen again and focus on my work. And it was giving me the feeling, okay, it's all right. It's on the right track. Yeah, it built a huge trust because he was a student and it was his first bigger project. So for me, I was okay. I hope, because I had some experience where I was flown to France in a project and I really gave the trust and I saw the final result and it was a disaster. And I really felt like, whoa, next time I really ought to make sure that if I say yes to a project, to ask the work that has been done in the past, because I don't want to end up again in a situation like that. So I guess to have this trust relationship is a common thing, that we are some together on a project. I show my work, what can I bring? You also help me guide what is it that you want. And the cinematographer, okay, how we are going, the triangle, as you mentioned here in this panel, which is a perfect name because that's a triangle. You really work together and I need to have a symbiosis. What I liked, for example, we had with the director we shot in Prague, we had a day for rehearsal, but we had also a day for rehearsal for the blockings. That made a lot of sense because I understood exactly what he meant and what he wanted. And we were together with the cinematographer, him, and the three of us working on the blockings, how he wants the scene to be shot. Anyway, that's my tiny...
Let's go to mystery guest number 2.
Maybe we'll continue with the original panel and we can...
This is a conversation. I think it's fine.
It is interesting indeed. Good afternoon,
Introduce
Martin
yourself.
Budney. Hello?
Introduce yourself.
Martin Budney. I'm an actor working internationally. We just did a shoot here, Ashes to Iron, with my colleague Rebecca. We were some of the actors involved in the production. Very interesting dynamic on set between cinematographer, first AD director, and actors. What I'd like to start off with, silence is sacred. Like for me, working on set, just less talking, joking around. There's time and space for that, but really to honor the idea of silence so we could work and really focus on the work at hand. Was there a question or anything like that?
There wasn't really a question. There will be more questions.
So silence. Oh, I wanted to say something Cristina mentioned in terms of trust. I love to prepare. I'll prepare, over prepare for the part, but when I show up on set, I like to let go and just give the trust to the director and then the cinematographer, so that I could really just let go, be in the moment. I mean, the technicalities, of course, they come up, but that's secondary for me. So the trust to let go and have that objective eye looking at what I'm doing and they're just feeding me a little bit of direction. That's very important for me. Thanks.
And finally, mystery guest.
Yes, hello, hi, I'm Rebecca Johnston. I'm a Swedish actress based here. And yes, I also like to prepare my work, and then I completely trust the cinematographer and the director. I think for me, there's no other way. We have to work together and trust each other. I sometimes check the frame, like where are we, just to make sure what should I do, not to overdo too much. If it's a close-up, and it's nice to know where you are and how to sort of act in the scene. But I also trust that if I do mess something up or do something that shouldn't be done in that scene, that someone will tell me. And that's the collaboration with cinematographer and director for me. So.
Thank you. And Aleksey, would you like to?
Yeah, I'm the one to create a disruption all the time. I would say that cinematography itself and the life in this profession is quite complicated. And that's why I prefer to kiss it, like keep it stupid simple. And first of all, the name of this presentation was always kind of scratching an eye for me because this geometry I didn't understand. this triangle, it's relations, it's emotions. Triangle in any relations is a very dangerous thing. Very, believe me. So in my mind, it's a line because the movie are made by director. And whatever happening emotionally should be addressed and controlled by director. And any attempt of cinematographer establishing any kind of contact, eye contact or whatever, emotional contact, I mean, it's in my mind, in my tradition, film tradition, which I was brought up with, it's a danger, big danger. Because 3 actors mentioned basically the same thing: confidence, comfort, emotional comfort, and the respect. Any kind of, it's, in a way, cinematography is like an army. It's a very high level of discipline, internal discipline. And I was thinking about this, like silence on the set. If somebody on the set has to have silence, please, the process has to be stopped and kind of tuned to the moment, because that means that some people on the set are not in line with the procedures. And it's not just somebody shutting up the mouth, but to bring people back to the track and emotional investment from each single person on the set, that's vital. And then actors having a confidence, and then the director has a perfect ability of situation control and getting in the end exactly what she or he needs. And that's why, starting from the name, I mean, it's kind of a linear thing. And from technical point of view, because we are from Imago Technical Committee, when we still kind of mixture of creativity and technology, which is actually the whole profession is all about, and then there is endless discussions like chicken egg story, you know, what was the first, what is the most important. It's just a mixture. And I would say that in digital world, because we have this topic as well here, I have to say that there is a kind of a very special area where cinematographer can help director and actor, usually only by discussion or by the blessing of the director. It's kind of in a visual storytelling, we have 2 communication channels with the audience. One is mind, and one is unconscious mind. And unconscious mind is the main channel, actually. And if the director said, you know, I feel that today the actor, for instance, I'm using it as an example, that the actor are not in the best mood, let's say, or this very important monologue or something. There are invisible ways to lift up attention up to a very high level. Like, it's very simple, actually, and it's very efficient. But in the end of the day, this is an orchestra. And every time to ask a violin player or the piano player, how do you feel? You know, wait a second, the conductor is there. The music, the symphony is still born and controlled by the director on the film set. That's what I believe in. And what I have to say that from my personal point of view, for cinematographer, it's kind of a limited danger, because to make a good close-up of an actor or actress, you have to fall in love with this person, with this role, with this project. And it should never be, of course it should be very limited, but it has to be quite honest. And it never means that it has to be developed into some kind of relations or whatever, but this is the way. Because emotional impact, and I mentioned that today on the other presentation, it's in a way like to say somebody, I love you, it needs conditions, and it needs honesty. You have to invest yourself emotionally if you're addressing somebody, for this person to be able to believe in what you're saying. And then, of course, and some funny things, like when I was in a film school, I got a chance to be acquainted with Ira Tiffin, and I asked him a question about filter I was not able to understand. Do you know what a glimmer glass is? Do you know the filter? You know what it's for, what it does? You do? Because I was not knowing it that day. And I was asking, wait a second, I made endless tests and I do that and this and that, and I didn't see any impact on the image. I said, this is not impacting the image directly. It's for the actors. Because for many actors, it's very uncomfortable when you're shooting the close-up. And because we are still people born as animals, and our psychological perception of physical world remains the same from those days. And when animals is looking directly in the eyes, it's a very dangerous moment. It's either aggression or like, it's a tension, I would say, anyhow, no matter what. And when the big eye on the close-up with a dark pupil, where something in there, and then when an actor imagining that millions of people will see you through this eye, it's a very uncomfortable feeling. The glimmer glass is just a sparkling elements in the glass. We're just making this eye not as aggressive for the actor. That's it. But that means that cinematographers is definitely thinking about the comfort of actors and stuff like that. Yeah, sorry to turn it into a little bit of a joke.
Cristina, maybe would you like to say something about that?
Maybe before, if you don't mind, Cristina, I would just want to say something about what you said before. I think the first idea of this panel comes from a workshop I give in many countries with different directors or different coach of actors. And the idea is certainly not to give to the cinematographer a power that he don't deserve. The idea is for the actor to be in front of the camera with a knowledge of what's in the video village. I think most of the directors don't want actors look at the monitor, and I perfectly understand that. And also, I think it's important for a cinematographer, when you are with a young actor, which at the end of the take wants to have some approbation, that this is not our position to say anything to the actor. This is the job of the director. But what I think is that it's very important about this relationship with the video village, which is what I saw in many countries, and many actors are complaining about the fact that the director is not physically on set with them. And nowadays there is many tools, like let's say little monitors to check the frame and to be with the actors. And this discussion is very important in terms of this triangle relationship. And as you mentioned, it's important to create this relationship with the respect of your position, because you're leading.
It's not a question, so I'll just comment. So we've reflected on triangle, on lines. I would say that in my opinion, filmmaking is a choral work. And although we're mentioning actors, cinematographers, and directors, I would like to honor other people in this room who I know, who's production manager, sound, lights, grips. We depend on each other so much. So perhaps this is a triangle now, but actually we know of you and we need each other to actually make a good work. Maybe this will sound a little bit escapist, or I don't know, but I don't like to think of the director as being like the it person. I think we're all serving a story, right? Maybe I wrote the story, maybe a writer wrote the story, maybe we adapt something and somebody else came with it, a literary writer. I think we all sign up for one story and we try to serve that story. I'm, in this case, responsible on how to bring this story to life. Now, going back to the work with the actor, I appreciate so much if we can prepare in advance. Very often, I don't know the actors that I cast. So I have an open casting. The casting director brings people to the table. I try to spend time with them as people and not just in character, but as people, what are they interested in? So that when the time comes, and let's say the video village is very far, and I can't, sometimes I really need to see the monitor to be able to imagine the film I had in my mind when we were preparing this, is it similar to what we're shooting? And if it's not, what's wrong? Is it maybe the light? Is it the camera too slow? Are we too close? What's wrong? So for this, I need a little bit of peace and quiet with the image, and that might result to the actor feeling that they're abandoned, perhaps, because I'm not there. It did happen with Márk that, for example, I was a bit far. It was a tense day, we had kids on set, we were shooting some dystopia with some cracks, imaginary cracks happening in the ceiling because we were gonna crack them in post-production. And he was complaining that I'm not there. And I understand this tension, but sometimes I need to be at the monitor. Sometimes I don't need to be at the monitor, and I can be in the room and not see what Márk is recording, but just look at the actor's performance. But I think it depends so much for me on preparation. Yeah, of course, the script. So we have the script, but then once we know what the script is, we prepare so we know what we're doing. In a very catastrophical thought, I'm thinking, when we start shooting, if I can't come to set because I've been hit by a bus or something, everybody knows what to do on the day.
One of the experiences early in my career was working for Francis Coppola at Zoetrope Studios. And I worked on a number of movies with Francis, but one of the films that I worked on was called One from the Heart. I don't think very many people have seen it. It's kind of an obscure Coppola film. But it was all shot on stages in Hollywood, and Francis had a technique or a way of working then where he had stopped being on set and started watching video assist in his Silver Bullet Airstream trailer. And he watched the entire scene from the trailer, and he had speakers installed in the permanence of the stage, and when they would finish a take, the actors would look around at each other like, where is the director? And they would wait and wait for something, and obviously Francis was watching playback or something, and then the speaker would come on and Francis would go, okay, that was good, we're moving on. And the actors would look around at each other like, what in the hell is going on here? And I think he eventually learned the cost of that, because there are other kinds of directors who like to sit right beside one camera and literally on an apple box or a chair right next to the lens, watch the actors' performances. And there are different styles of directing, but there are different styles of actors reacting to directors. Anyone who wants to say anything about this is welcome to.
Yeah, I think I was thinking these days, so which is the direction of the filmmaking now? It's becoming too technical. I like theater, and in the theater, if you're just sitting, there is no technical element involved. But some spiritual mystery can happen as I'm watching the performance on the stage. And it's all the time, for me, that's the key moment, what I really enjoy, the mystery. And somehow I recognize, because everything is technical, so there is multiple screen, any corner of the stage, or the department watching the screen. It seems to me we became really far from this lovely feeling to get involved this spiritual mystery like the acting and the filmmaking mean for me. So it's like I think it's the best. It's even that's a complicated things, because now these days the DOP, the only one who watching the worst image, because in the beginning the DOP was the only one, or the camera operator, who watched the scene.
Or the operator.
Or the operator, yes.
On film.
Yes, but in these days, you know, we are further from the checking the quality of the acting as anybody else on the crew. So I think this is a very complicated things. It came to the surface, so maybe we need to find a way to going back a little bit to the roots, keeping out a little bit, bringing out the technology, and find a way to concentrate to acting and the creating process.
You know, that's an interesting point, But one of the things that I've seen in the last couple of years is there's a resurgence, a nostalgic resurgence, an enthusiasm for shooting on film and shooting the old way. And I've also seen some discomfort in the actors when there isn't the monitor and when there isn't so much playback and there isn't so much emphasis on the live feed, you get both kinds of styles of working, a reliance on digital and a pushback against digital.
There is a point in the discussion which is related to the screening of the dailies. We have forgotten this moment, and I think personally I learned my job with that, okay? And I saw many productions nowadays. The last one was one battle after another, where they use a daily screening to check what they've done, but not what they've done today, what they did yesterday. And that is part of a discussion that we will have tomorrow in Aleksey's session regarding future of cinema. We do believe that using daily screening is the future of cinema. First of all, for indie movies, it's very easy to have a projector at €2,000 to screen the dailies on the wall of the hotel or whatever with the team, because this moment is a place to guarantee that we are heading in one direction, your direction. We are listening to what you said to the set designer, to the cinematographer. And this, for us, is a way to learn how we are heading for. And I think that because of, let's say, the digital diarrhea, many data that we are trying to swallow, we forgot that our subconscious need to have some idea of takes, not a limited number of takes, that we will see tomorrow. And maybe our subconscious will change and say, many cinematographers are waking up in the night and say, oh my God, what did I do with the actor yesterday? And many directors, some wake up and say, whoa, he was overacting or not. Maybe it was too strong. Because there is a mistake on the WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. For me, it's what WYSIG. What you can see is what you see, perhaps. Okay, so this confusion is led by the fact that because you see, you have, it's wrong. Because when you are looking at this on monitor on the video village, you are in a rush. You're in a position. You have the production manager. You're asking, hey, can you? Are you okay? Whatever. So this is a confusion. And the fact that we are going back to the daily screening in many productions, for me, is a good sign to use the best of digital and the best of analog.
Can I just quickly add something to this? Sorry. I have heard of colleagues, directors doing this, screening at the end of the week materials, dailies from that week. And I think this is a great idea. And next time I would definitely do this and invite actors as well. So they're able to not check the monitor now if it's not necessary, but do see their work. Because often I see production designers, costume designers, makeup artists come to the premiere. They've never seen the film. We're all there together. We want to enjoy what we've done together, but they're not enjoying because they're looking, oh, I messed this up. Oh, if I had only known that this is the way it looks. So I think this would be very useful.
We are always very cost conscious in making movies. In the filmmaking business, we pride ourselves on succeeding by the narrowest possible margin. But I always caution producers and production managers that in the same way it's possible to spend too much making a movie, it's also possible to spend too little making a movie. And finding the sweet spot in between, I think, means we need to see our work. We need to see some dailies.
Yes, I just want to point out something that's quite new for actors, and that's self-taping. And most of the auditions we do now is self-taping. So we direct ourselves on the scenes we get. We're the cinematographers on the scenes we do. So I think a lot of actors get on set and they have an image of the character, the scene they've done and auditioned for. Maybe that's all they're doing on set that day. And I think it's sometimes hard to adjust to a director's view when you're just meeting one day, or to the cinematographer and you're jumping in on a set where people have been working for a month already and you only have 1 or 2 days, and you've done your job and you were hired to do that. But of course, there are variations. You have to be so flexible, but self-taping has changed a lot for the actors, that suddenly we have directed ourselves and we have done the lights and we have done, everything. And that's, I think, is hard for the actor as well. And that's why maybe they want to see themselves more on the monitor, because now we're so used to seeing ourselves and judging our work ourselves before we send it in.
Yeah, I wanted to add to the topic that I had the chance to work in different productions. So one made on the old classical analog film, and that was a very nice experience, because in this sense, the technicality was kind of forgotten. Mainly you were like working in the trust of that what the directors were bringing to the table, and you were really, the relationship was much deeper and more focused on the acting. I've worked with some indie productions where the director was multitasking. He was the cinematographer, he was everything. And there I missed the opposite, because it was so much focused on the technicality that I had basically no guidance. It was basically do what you can, do what you do, and everything was the technical side of it, which I don't want to do that ever again, because honestly, for me, in my sense, I want to focus on the acting, not the technical part. Even if I am aware of what's going on, it's something I want to be putting aside. I trust you guys for, you know what you're doing, and we want to focus on together creating, and I want to be able to say, okay, you lead the direction and I'm being your tool for you tell me what you expect from me.
Let me start a new line of question. And I'm sure we've all experienced this as cinematographers, as actors, as director. What do you all think of what happens as a result of the move into digital filmmaking, the technique of digital filmmaking, now that you can turn the camera on and let it run for an hour, as opposed to obeying the discipline of a roll of film, which is 9+ minutes, and then you've got to cut, and then you take a deep breath, and everyone has a coffee or a cigarette while you reload the camera. Would anybody care to say anything about that?
So when I started, we started working with film, short films, and then a couple of features. But then Dogma came out, and that was digital, wasn't it? I think that was digital. So there's so much more freedom with that, and the pressure is off. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic to have that time to explore. And sometimes the director will keep talking, but the camera's rolling. Try this, try that, and it's like in the moment, and whatever comes up, it's just, I find it very liberating, and I think it's great.
Anyone else want to say anything about?
It's my experience, because when I was young, I was an AC in film set. And I remember then we were shooting film that time, and that was something different, which it's not exist, I think, on film shooting, because when the camera was turned over, it was completely silence, because everybody knows the film stock very expensive, it's run out, and we had to immediately start the scene. So somehow the tension and everything helped us to create this kind of mysteria. I'm always talking about this. And it was a kind of like, we made a time for the shot. And we concentrated very hard to make it. And these days, we can repeat any times, whatever counts. So it's, I have a feeling we are a bit lazy with this kind of technical thing.
We met in Oslo an actress who was complaining about the fact that she needed to breathe at a certain point. I think it's very interesting to have, let's say, this freedom to continue when the directors is able to master this way of shooting. Because we saw a very famous film who won the prize at Cannes. We shot 500 hours of footage, and the two editors never had time to saw all the footage because, as I said, it was a kind of digital diarrhea, an amount of data for nothing because nobody had time to see that. So I think having the possibility not to stop the camera at a certain point is the strength of digital, but it has to be mastered by someone who knows at which moment we have to cut.
I've actually had actresses call cut on the set. Literally, an actress, I will leave her nameless, she passed, but she just looked up and said, "Can we please cut?"
But I mean, you have to know what you're looking for. Just because you can shoot almost for infinity, of course you can, but still, you have to know what you're looking for. That's one thing. And the other is, I will have to watch all this. So
Precisely.
maybe we can shoot very long, not stop. But perhaps it's a big question to think about. Does it serve what we're telling here? Maybe it does, and maybe it makes sense. But I think the pressure that we used to have with shooting on analog, we still have from the point of view of money. I can't afford to have a day running forever. I mean, I could, but the producer cannot. So I need to keep with whatever we promised to shoot in that day.
Makes sense.
I mean, for my part, I know that digital or not, what I value the most is the preparation. I'm a kind of actor who loves to prepare a lot in advance, because when I'm on set, I want to feel that I have the freedom to just go with the flow. And the digitalization kind of take away sometimes for certain people this importance of preparation, because we can do it again and again as many times as we want. And from my side, I'm the opposite. I like taking my time. And if a director wants to sit down and let's prepare and do this together, I value more because, okay, then we are really on the same page, and it gives us a chance to be on the same page and explore what are the possibilities of creating together. So I guess this is the edge of easiness of digital world. Maybe some people will devalue the preparation part, which I think should be very important. I mean, for me as an actor, it's very important.
I agree. Dhanushka, you have something to say.
I mean, talking about the formats wise, like as you mentioned, like when I was shooting my first film with 35, like from the production itself, I had like, I said like, yeah, you got like 32,000 feet, you get to do this work. And then like every time when the camera is on and like, you hear this sound like, the magazine is rolling, and then like everybody's on the pin, like, in the set, everybody's very serious, which is going on. Plus, what I felt when we started shooting in digital, with the same director I started shooting in digital, he hated the image, he didn't want to make the film. So we went on shooting for 5 years, another film in digital, shooting with 4 different cameras, like time to time, because he hated that image which came with digital initially. He went on, made 3 films, and then we came back time to time. We were shooting it digitally. But what happened, there was a process which developed, like this, like the director, like when we were shooting with 35, and like huge crew, like 60 vehicles and like 150 crew and a lot of things. But the director wanted to experiment with something like a very minimal crew. So this is where I guess the digital actually helped. We could like get in with the camera, and the director himself was driving, and there was a sound guy and 2 actors. We were traveling and we were shooting for 5 years, parallel to like shooting with 35 different films and this. So that film, after 5 years, the film, it took another few years to like edit. And my color grader was like pulling his hair, like, what was this? We wanted to convert into black and white because it's different cameras, but like he managed to do that. But film really worked well in the end, because like we could see there's a relationship, like where is a very less crew, so the actors could like, relate, and the director loved that process. So that's the film, like Philippe saw, film got selected in Locarno, like at the main competition, and I was like holding my heart because it's the biggest screen, like, you know, when you see that, like these images. But it really, like, I felt there is pros and cons, but I love shooting with 35 still, but the ability of building this whole relationship, I think digital has given, like, you know, ample opportunities.
I don't know how we're doing on time here.
We have half an hour almost.
We have a half an hour?
Meanwhile, I want to add a few things, just very
Okay.
short, very few things. You see, the situation, as usual, in my mind, that's my point of view, was perfectly solved by a director. Director said, why it's triangle? There are so many other people, art designers, makeup designers, costume designers, even the coffee girl, script girl, whoever, every single person emotionally investing himself or herself in the project. That means it's much more complicated geometrical figure. That's one. And the second, in digital, I think, in digital reality, it's just tremendous load on cinematographer because in analog times, director was having a magician behind his or her back. With digital, there is no more magic, at least on set. It's still a magic, but it's not understood by everyone as clear. That means director don't have any more magician on her or his side behind the back. That means cinematographers has to behave. And in the end of the day, what I believe, that every time when I'm movie, I didn't get any chance to meet the director, Hungarian director, and but the movie she makes is, for me, is fantastic. It's like Of Body and Soul. And then now she made a new movie, which will be very excited to see. When I'm watching this movie, I'm not cinematographer. And some other movies, I'm the audience. And I can cry, or I can laugh, and I'm forgetting about technology, and it's magic. And today I mentioned already once, I don't have any idea how emotional investment of each single person on set, going through this pipeline of the production run, and reaching the audience through the screen, be that the monitor or screen in the film theater, but it's happening. And this is still the magic. Thank you.
Should we open to questions from the...
Yes, but maybe before I want to speak about one or two experiences I had with British actors and Scandinavian actors. I was working on set, and for the first hour, the actor asked me, which lens? I say, 75. Okay, give me a precise A-line. And he was working with me. And also, I had just 2 hours after, it was a long take, and it was pretty improvisation, and he came very close to the lens, and at the end he came to me and said, for the minimum of point of focus, it is okay? So he knew about this. And I don't say that actors have to know this, but when you're working with some actors, because of the wish of the director is to have a perfect control of their position in the frame, you cannot work in the same way with Wes Anderson or with Claude Lelouch. I've been working with Claude Lelouch, so there is no marks, no everything. I've been working also with Robert Altman without any marks, but the actors know perfectly well to do and to deal with the camera because they knew that they were not at the same place at the second take. It will be a problem for the cinematographer, but also for their performance. So knowing that an actor is working with the camera is important, I think. And for a young actor, it's very funny because I worked with an actor who was very young, and 30 years after, we met again. Because then when we was working, he didn't want to know about technique, and the director didn't want. And he came to me 30 years after and said, no, I understand why I fucked up. And it's interesting to have this kind of relationship because I think we have to be agnostic behind the camera, very agnostic. We have to respect the way the director wants to work, but also we have also to work with the actors and to be close to their needs and to, let's say, prevent any wrong behavior.
I can't speak for the rest of the world, but in Central Eastern Europe, I do see that there's an unspoken tendency to sort of keep actors in this child position. to a little bit isolate them, not have them know too much of the technicalities. Also, there's not a big tradition of film acting. Because the industries are small, actors work both in theater, film, TV. Obviously, it's a great thing. They get so many different experiences. But at the same time, I don't think there's an opportunity for an actor to really get to know in depth the technicalities of a film shoot, unless they have a lot of experience. But not everybody shoots 3 films a year for 40 years. And I think that's a pity, and I think the industry should be doing more for those actors who actually want to get into these details.
One of the things that I coach actors on when they ask me about this, and I've been asked, what is the difference between theater acting and film acting? And it's easy to think that theater acting is acting for an audience, and film acting is acting for a person. But I explain that it's not really acting for a person, it's acting for a frustum, which is a pyramidal field of view, which decreases in size the closer you get to the camera. And that's a hard notion to transmit to people as opposed to acting for one person. Because if you were acting for a person, if you were acting for a director, the director can follow you and look where you're going. It's not the same for the camera. The camera has a narrow field of view, and especially these days with the digital camera, there's a latency between when someone moves in front of the camera and when the operator actually gets the picture a frame later. And it's a big difference.
Yeah, and also I think there is something important in the behavior of an actor in front of a camera when he knows what he's doing. I made a long take from my first camera operator work with a very famous French actor, and it was a long take with several spots, and at the end of the first take, he came to me and said, "Do you want me to slow down between position 5 and 6 because I thought that you were a little bit late." I was behind him, and he realized that something was wrong. I said, no, we were late. So it means that the conscience of the subconscious, or the way to feel the camera, is with some actors so important and so great that we have to use it as a gift, or the contrary, we have to, for this reason of frustrum, to decide what kind of a relationship between is the space of the actor and the space created by the lens will match. This is a director's decision. And I think it's important to explain, that's what I'm explaining in the workshop, exactly this idea of frustrum. This pyramidal has to be decided with one certain point of view of directing. And it leads the actors to deal with the camera, or it leads to us to follow actors. It's a big difference.
Should we open? Let's open it for audience questions at this point. Can we get a mic in the audience?